Alright, hi there, this is Mr. Reininger, and we're going to be looking at Lesson 3 for this week, which is identifying translations, making sure we know that we're looking at a translation and what happens when a translation occurs on a figure. So, uh, like normal, I have provided this lesson as a PDF, which you can download and work on if you want, or you can just take your own notes on paper. If you choose to do that, you can just sketch everything. You don't have to worry about being perfect, but I do want you to make sure that you take the notes and get a general idea of what's going on. So to start with, let's just recall really quickly that a translation is when you move or slide or shift a figure. And so when we do that, consider part of what we have to consider is what things change and what things stay the same. So as we go through this lesson, that's part of what needs to be thought about for each question. So take a look at this first picture. I'm going to say that this one right here is the pre-image, and this one right here is the image. So you might be asked what happened, what transformation occurred. So one of the ways that we might begin looking at this is, first, is the image exactly the same shape as the pre-image? So that's one of our questions that we need to ask ourselves. Is it the same shape? In this case, I can look at that, and hopefully you can too, and say, yeah, it's the same shape. Another question we should ask ourselves is it the same size? In this case, once again, what we can do to verify that is to look at a couple of the different sides. If I look at this side right here, that's 4. If I take a look at this side, that's 4. If I take a look at this, that's 3. Take a look at this, that's 3. So looking at those corresponding parts, like what we did in the first lesson, here's 3, here's 3, here's 2, here's 2. All pairs of corresponding parts are the same, which means that this is the image and the pre-image are the same size. It's a little bit tougher to tell, but in different instances we might ask ourselves if it has the same angles. And actually, if it's the same shape, it's going to have the same angles, so this one automatically is yes. So with all of those things said, first off, these 3 things are what makes it a rigid motion. So that goes back again to the first lesson where it's a rigid motion. So then one more thing that we have to look at here is, can we look at one point, so say this point right here, and can we track it to its corresponding point, say to this point right here? So if I track from here to here, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the left, and 1, 2, 3 up. So let's say 8 left, 3 up. Now what I'm going to do is see, I'm going to pick one more point and see if it does the same thing. So I'm going to pick this point to this point. Let's see if it does the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3 up. It does do the same thing. So based on that, we can tell that this is a translation sorry about that. This is a translation that went 8 left and 3 up. And when that translation happened, it gave us the same shape, the same size, and all the same angle measures. And this is basically the idea of what we're looking at. Okay, so we take a look at here, and if we start with shape A, there are three things that happened here. And one of the things that you might be asked is, which one is a translation? In other words, which one of these, B, C, or D, resulted from translating shape A? Could we simply have moved it to get it here? Could we simply have moved it to get it here, or moved it to get it here? Well, if you think about just picking something up off the graph and shifting it over, that probably wouldn't have created this. This one looks more like we flipped it, which is something we're going to talk about next week. This one looks like it was turned. That'll be something we talk about in a couple of weeks. This is the only one that looks like it was shifted. Hopefully you can tell that this looks like it was shifted to the left and then shifted up. So D, so here we would say that A translated to D. And then what we want to do is be more specific. So here's the vocabulary, here's what happened, and now we want to talk about how it happened. So pick any point that you want to. I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to go to its corresponding part here. And now let's describe what happened. It looks like it went left, 1, 2, and then it went up, 1, 2. So A translated to D, up 2 units, and left 2 units. And I want you to notice it doesn't really matter in which order we do it. It could have gone left and up. It could have gone up and left. Either way, it ends up in the same place. I want you to notice, though, that either way, we talk about what happened and we talk about how it happened. That's the most descriptive that we can possibly be with that. And again, what happens here, we end up having exactly the same shape. We have the same, everything is facing the same way. It's like the point is over here. Okay, it's the same size. We have all the same angles. Everything is the same about it. It's just in a slightly different location on the graph. That's what it means to translate that figure. So, if we describe transformations, we look at practicing that. So, taking into account what some of the other lessons looked like, one of the first things we have to do is determine which of these was the original shape. And the way we do that is by finding the one that does not have the prime mark on it, which means that we're looking at the black shape, XUG. So, how did we get from XUG to X prime? Actually, I'm sorry, XQUG. How do we get from there to X prime, Q prime, U prime, G prime? In this particular case, hopefully you can see that every unit just moved over 1 unit. Every point moved over 1 unit. So we could say that X, G, U, Q, again, it doesn't matter really what order we do this in, translated 1 unit left. Okay? Pause the video, see if you can do this one to this one. So if I look at point E, it looks like it went down 1, 2, to the right 1. And again, this has to be the original because this has the primes. So TIE translated down to right 1. Okay? Why don't you pause the video and try the next 4, and then check your answers. This one, MUL, simply translated down 1, 2, 3, 4. This one, rectangle. What do we have here? DLFR. Whoops, sorry, this one didn't go down, it went up. This one translated up 1, 2, 3. This one QTYM translated right 3. And this one here, triangle WEG translated 1, 2, down 2 and right 1. Okay. So then lastly, once again, we ask ourselves, how do we know these are translations, and how do we describe these translations? And so that's, again, just looking at, when I see these, I see that this here is the original shape because it does not have the prime marks. So I compare this shape to the blue one, and I ask myself those questions. Are these the same shape? Yes, they are. Are they the same size? Yes, they are. Are the letters in the same positions? In other words, I see M, I, Q, U. And when I look at the other one, I see M, I, Q, U. Everything is in the same basic position. All the angles appear to be the same size. Everything about this appears to be exactly the same except for where it's located. So I can say that this appears to be a translation. It just seems to be in a different spot. So then I say, okay, it's a translation, but then how was it translated? I can simply say for this one that it went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a translation 4 units up. Okay, same thing here. This one, same shape, same size, appears to be about the same angle measure. Everything, and I see FCP, FCP, the angles are in the same positions. Everything about it is exactly the same except where on the graph it's located. So it's a translation. Be careful about which one's the original. This one does not have the primes, so that would be the original. So how do we get from here to here? If I go from C to C prime, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right. Okay. These two are the same idea, except now you're going down and right. Now you're going left and up. So this is what it looks like to identify that you're looking at a translation and to describe it fully and to understand what the properties are that stay the same and what changes. Try this out on the practice problems. If you have any questions, contact your teacher and let us know. Have fun.